All right, to explain why the German-speaking states were weak at the time of the Napoleonic Wars. Okay, so we mentioned about how this First Reich, okay, we'll talk about this First Reich, meaning first power of the German-speaking area, is the Holy Roman Empire, right? Why was that weaker? Okay, think about it, right? Think about it. And then obviously with Napoleon coming in, you could take over some of these smaller countries, nations, pretty easy. There's a reason why, right? So you guys can explain that. And then when we get to Prussia, Otto von Bismarck, he has this goal, this intention for the German-speaking states. He's going to do something, which label the goal, and then how he's going to do it. So towards the end of class, we mentioned about some conflicts, blood and iron. Blood and iron. Okay, something to think about. It will be a bad idea to maybe mention his nickname. That might make sense for some of you when it comes to his goals and intention. All right, so there you go. There you go. I'll give you guys one to work on that. All right, here we go, here we go. So at the time of the Napoleonic Wars, okay, with the Holy Roman Empire, how many German-speaking states were there? How many? Jason? There'll be 39 after the wars, but before it. Jason?
360.
Yeah, about 360. Good job. So over 300 German-speaking states, right? So these are all small nations. Does that mean they have a big population? No, very small. So when it comes to their military, are they large? Big? Are they innovative? No. So that's a problem, especially when you got a guy like Napoleon and a great French army, right? That's how they could take over pretty much all of Central Europe like that. Okay. Also, Italy's in the same boat. And I know I didn't really talk about Italy much, but they're also broken up with a lot of Italian-speaking states. It's not like they're unified. It's not like they're one nation. That makes them weaker. And if they're not united, if they're not together, they're not going to be near as strong. So the goal here, after the Napoleonic Wars, was to unify, come together, and we'll eventually see Germany unified, right? Italy, same thing. And let's face it, are these countries colonizing? Or do they have any colonies around the world? Do they? Do they have any colonies around the world if they're not even unified? No, they're behind the game, right? They're playing catch up with a lot of the other European countries. England has a lot of colonies around the world. France, same thing. Spain, same thing, right? But Germany, Italy, no, not at all. Right? I know the Renaissance started with Italy, but well, ever since then, ever since the age of exploration, they've been in the back seat, right? So to speak. Same with Germany, right? They're not advancing. They can't advance if they're not unified. So they've really got to start to catch up to these other European countries. Well, for Germany, in this case, thanks to this industrial revolution, Germany has the ability to now maybe leapfrog some of these other European countries. If they have the advancements, if a lot of these new innovations start in Germany, well, they can maybe really catch up, but even jump some of these other European countries. All right, so later, after the Napoleonic Wars, after the Congress of Vienna, Jason, how many German-speaking states were there? 39. Yeah, about 39. Okay. So again, are they as strong if they, no, right? They're not strong at all, right? They need to come together. And the only way to do that is through, what does Otto von Bismarck say? Awesome. War. Okay, war, blood, and iron, right? So he says blood and iron, but he means war. He means innovation, right? He means conflict with a lot of these neighboring countries that were really strong at one point. But if you can defeat them in a war, maybe you can bring these German-speaking states together. Maybe you can tie these, right, smaller territories, these smaller areas together and become a strong nation, right? So that's what his goal was. What was Otto von Bismarck's nickname? What was his name? You know me? The Iron Chancellor. Good job. So yeah, he was conservative, okay? He really didn't like some of these liberal ideas, left-leaning viewpoints, but he also went across the aisle and made sure that they were appeased so, right? So a good statesman will do that. Right? He'll take common sense, right? When it comes to planning for the benefit of eventually Germany, right? So these common sense policies, what is that called? What is that term called where you're taking a direction of not the left or the right, but right down the middle? What's the benefit for the nation? What is that called? Blaine, go ahead. Realpolitik, yeah, good job. So with realpolitik, just like we saw with Elizabeth I, okay, she took the nation, right? She didn't side with Protestantism or Catholicism. I know she was more Protestant, but, right, she didn't side with one of these religions, right? She took the direction of the nation. What's the benefit of the nation? And it builds a sense of nationalism, right? National pride for the country, right? So religion is still a high priority for a lot of people, but it's maybe coming down almost equal with what the pride is for the country, right? How you have patriotism for your country. All right, so like I mentioned yesterday, for Bismarck, the only way to bring these German-speaking states together is to win wars, okay? What's the problem? What's the problem? If this war will become bigger and bigger, larger war, larger conflict, if it's not solved within weeks or even days, what could happen? What can happen here? All right, go ahead, why? Yeah, right. Thanks to that Congress of what? Yeah, Congress of Vienna. So after the Napoleonic Wars, right, all these European countries agreed if there was ever a belligerent, aggressive country, right? If they are starting wars with their neighbors here, right, this could lead to a large scale war like we saw with the Napoleonic Wars. So to prevent that, they all had ties, they all had alliances. And in order to make sure an aggressive nation was put down before the war could begin. Right? For Bismarck, though, he has to be careful, right? He needs these conflicts to unify Germany, but at the same time, he can't make you got to make sure it doesn't become a large scale conflict, right? He has to make sure it's quick, fast, right? These wars. All right, so yesterday we did talk about the Danish War. So he goes to war with up here Denmark. Why does he want to try to capture these German-speaking territories and even land way up here in the northern part of Europe? Luna? Yeah, good job, right? So that gain access to the water. Okay, it's number one trade. Your economy can boom. Great, awesome. What else can you build? What can you build that they don't have at all? Jason? A navy, good. So overall, that can access new areas, new lands, new territories, maybe colonize for the rest of the world like these other European countries. Again, they got to play catch up here. It is what it is. It just took too long to unify. So gaining access to the waters, number one, trade, build a navy, and maybe colonize. Okay, and eventually they will. All right, so that's important. Okay, they had Austria on their side for this Danish war. Right, they allied with them to help them out. Right, and as they did that, they unified the northern parts of what we know of Germany. Okay, gained access to the water, you name it. All right, great, awesome. That only lasted a few days. All right, and then the next conflict, well, they turned their backs on Austria then. So with Bismarck, he realized that Austria is one of these strong countries, okay, within Europe. And Bismarck's looking at Austria, and guess what? Does he have a little bit of recon now, a little bit of understanding of what Austria's military is like? Yes, he does. They helped him with the Danish War. So obviously, he was kind of playing his cards. He was looking at how Austria mobilized their troops. He was looking at their weaponry. He was looking at their military strategies. So this guy's ahead of the game. He's already 2 steps ahead. Right. So in other words, yeah, he used Austria's help to defeat Denmark, but he was also just trying to understand what their military was like, how they can mobilize their troops, so that he could stab them in the back then. All right. Obviously, you don't want to make enemies, but man, was this guy ahead of the game? So within 2 years, Prussia, right? This is that militaristic German-speaking state that's got to unify Germany, where Bismarck's from. He decides to go to war with Austria. Again, he knew what they were all about. He knew what their military was like. He knew how they can mobilize their armies. That's something to think about as we're talking about these conflicts. All right, so he defeats Austria within 7 weeks. That's it. 7 weeks. That's it. All right, again, you got to make it quick. You got to make it fast. You can't let these other European countries come in and slow things down. Right? Or get involved with Great Britain, Russia, right? France, Spain. You can't get involved with all those countries. You're not going to win that one. All right, but anyway, with Prussia, they defeat Austria within 7 weeks. All right, in these 2 wars, what did Prussia use to their advantage? What did they use? What was their secret weapon? Well, there you go. Trains, yeah, good job. So with trains, you can mobilize your troops fast, quick, and efficient. Right? You could travel troops, weapons, armaments, you name it. Right, supplies to the battlefield just like that. Right, and Prussia was way ahead of everybody else in doing so. Great Britain wasn't even there yet. Right, France wasn't there yet. The United States wasn't there yet. They're starting it, but Prussia, man, oh man, they had it quick and efficient when it comes to transportation. Right, so in other words, they caught Austria off guard. Right, Austria wasn't prepared for the mobilization of troops just like that. Right, so you can see Bismarck's using the innovations of the Industrial Revolution to really advance, unify Germany together through military tactics, through blood and iron. Okay, you guys get it, man? Blood and iron. All right, next one. All right, so here's just a map really describing the wars here, the advancements, okay, and how Bismarck is unifying Russia through the Prussian state, this militaristic state, okay, the glorification of the military. We'll talk about it. It's going to be called militarism. All right, it's a term we'll mention more when we get to World War I. All right, here we go. So, yeah, defeating Denmark's one thing. Great, right? At the same time, spying on Austria. Defeating Austria then, because you got insight, recon of them because of the Denmark War, right? Now, well, as they defeat Austria within 7 weeks, Prussia is becoming a strong militaristic nation. All of a sudden, these countries in Europe are looking at Prussia and Bismarck and saying, all right, we got a new player here, right? We got a new strong military. We got a new world power, maybe a bully on the playground, right? Because all their innovations. But one thing Bismarck was good at was diplomacy. A good statesman, he could talk with these other countries and try to keep them at bay, right? Discuss future plans, okay, and ideas that will prevent a large-scale war from happening. This guy towed the line, and he towed the line for sure, but he also was very smart, keen, cunning, right, when it comes to these tactics, these little wars here that he defeats his enemy within, let's face it, days, weeks. All right, so the next war we get, you got it, is the Franco-Prussian War. Right, to really show the world, and all of Europe, but even the world, right, what kind of country Prussia is, what kind of militaristic power Prussia is going up against France. Right, again, France, even after Napoleon, had a strong military, had a very strong army, the largest land military, largest an army, right? Europe and the world has. So it's one of those things here where if you defeat France, well, that is going to officially bring in the southern German-speaking states and finally unify Germany. His goal, his objective of bringing the German-speaking states together will be achieved. The only way to do it, though, is to go to war with a stronger power, and that is France. All right, so what did he do? Well, you got it. He antagonized France to a point where they threw the first punch, right? Again, now Prussia is not seen as the aggressor. Prussia is not seen as the belligerent country, right? France threw the first punch, right? Now we can finish the job. Now we can prevent Great Britain, Russia, Austria even, and Spain, all these other European countries are getting involved. The Congress of Vienna has to sit this one out again because, well, France is the aggressor. All right, so what happens here? Well, through this telegram, oh, you remember the telegraph? Talk about this, sending messages back and forth, communication. It's no longer you just have to ride your horse to, let's say, this neighboring country, discuss things out. Now you can send information, telegrams, right? Through the telegraph. All right, so they send this telegram to France, and what it said was the negotiations with France was not going well, okay? In other words, they had diplomacy, they were talking, these statesmen, and as the French statesman left from, meeting with Prussia, right, Otto von Bismarck sent a telegram to France and said, hey, this didn't go well, right? Your diplomat from France was pretty aggressive. Right, he was also, in many ways, trying to undermine, right, our negotiations, right? He was, I don't know, in other words, just causing a conflict. Okay, so he sends this telegram to France even before the French diplomat returns back to France. And in other words, he antagonizes them. He says, hey, there's a conflict, there's an issue between the diplomats. This was an issue and we got to solve this thing out. So France wasn't too happy about it. France just sees this as aggression, bombing Prussia, which it was. Bismarck was, in all reality, pulled the strings behind it and wanting France to attack him. So he can obviously show his authority and unify Germany together. Also, the biggest thing he wants, which we'll talk about this when we get to World War I and World War II, is this territory called Alsace-Lorraine. Right, this is in between what we know of Germany and France. So right up here. So you guys are looking right here. All right, this is an area where the Rhine River flows through. Why is that important? Well, transportation of goods and materials, right? Yeah. Also, it's rich with coal, sources of energy. Okay, so you can see why this area, this little territory is important. Also, wouldn't that create a good buffer zone between what we know of Germany and France? Yes, it would. So Bismarck wants this territory bad, real bad. Number one, because the river, the Rhine. Number two, because of energy, coal, and iron, right? And at the same time, with this buffer zone between the two countries. So what happens? Well, France acts first. They attack Prussia, right? Prussia using, you got it, dead giveaway again. What they use again to mobilize their troops? I mean, this is the same card over and over again, right, Naomi? Yeah, the trains, right? He uses the trains again to mobilize his troops quick, fast, and efficient. He defeats France within months. Months, that's all it took. The great French army, right? The great Napoleonic empire that was once France, right? Defeated within months. Months? Yeah. So you got to imagine, if you're England, you're seeing this. can't even comprehend. Right, this great dominant power that took over the whole continent under Napoleon was defeated in months by this small German-speaking state of Prussia. This doesn't make any sense. Anyway, with that being said, as Prussia defeats France within months because of the trains, this brings all of the German-speaking states together, finally unifies them together. So make sure you guys write it down. The Franco-Prussian War was the final conflict that brought these German-speaking states together. Unified, Germany as one, right? You gotta imagine too, the German people are excited about it, right? And they gain a sense of nationalism that they never experienced before. Pride in their country, but also their military, right? So is that a great thing? You have this big pride in your military. Yeah, it's good and all, sure, great, but will this lead to future wars? Yeah, World War I is looming. It is looming. So what do you think is gonna cause a rivalry? That it's going to cause tensions between Germany and France that will never be resolved, right? Not until the end of World War II. So this conflict was great and all for Germany to unify together, but well, France no longer can trust them, right? France has a big enemy now with Germany. Germany's now one of these world leaders, these world powers, comparable to England, comparable to the United States. All right, so what happens here then? Well, after the unification of Germany, Bismarck, well, he's not going to claim the leadership as emperor, right? He's going to give that to someone else. And the reason for it is because he wants unity, right? If he's the one that kind of just pulls all these German-speaking states together through military, through force, through constant conflict, well, in other words, his name's being floated around too much. So he realizes that he has to give power to someone that he can trust. But at the same time, that isn't just him, right? You can't put your name and stamp it on everything. And Bismarck realized that. Again, that makes him a great statesman. If he became the leader here, the king, the emperor, they call it the Kaiser, right? If he does that, then, well, that could tarnish Germany's moving forward. He's going to create too many enemies. So he has to hand it off to someone else. And this is where we see Kaiser Wilhelm I becoming the emperor of, well, we know, Germany. Also, yeah, he was the Emperor of Prussia, right? Otto von Bismarck was just the chancellor. In Russia, let's face it, got everything done. Okay. So with that, this creates a balance of power, right? This creates an alliance system for Germany and Austria-Hungary. Okay, Austria, after getting their butts whooped in the Austrian War with Prussia, they realized that Germany is a strong, strong power. And if they ally themselves with Germany, they can protect themselves from not only Russia, but even France. So you can see the alliances of World War I starting right now here, Franco-Prussian War. So a lot of people, when they analyze World War I, when they look at World War I, they start a lot of times with the Franco-Prussian War, because this starts the tensions. This starts the alliance system between these countries of Europe, where, well, that's going to lead to, again, a larger global conflict. All right, like I mentioned, with Bismarck, he realized the only way to try to keep unity is to reach across the aisle, looking at these other political parties and, well, conceding some to them. So yeah, the unified Germany, great, that's what he wanted. He has a strong military, awesome, perfect. But he needs to appease the left-leaning side of these political parties in Germany. What he does is create a welfare system, right? We talked a little bit about this yesterday. In Social Security, so anybody that's getting to an older age that no longer work very efficient, well, hey, you guys get a pension, get a compensation, and we can bring in a younger generation to work. Great. At first, many German people were not happy with it. They're like, you just took my job, my pride, my glory away from me. Now, believe it or not, back in the day, people like to work. I wish we had some of that mentality today. Anyway, with that welfare system was created. Okay, obviously there's a little bit more to it than just the social security system, but again, this will be adopted and taken later down the line, 50 years later by the United States and say, hey, this system actually works pretty good. These social programs, socialism has to offer. It's not too bad. All right. Also, he wanted to try to limit the influence of the Catholic Church. Again, you go from one Reich, right? The Holy Roman Empire. We're going to talk about the Third Reich here soon and the Second Reich, but the First Reich is the Holy Roman Empire. Everybody had allegiance to the Catholic Church, right? As this Industrial Revolution takes off, as this innovation happens, after these constant wars in Germany unifies together, they need to create a Second Reich, a second power in Germany. And this is where you see the German Empire right, start to be formed, where people have more of a national pride than their allegiance to the church, okay? So, yeah, it's not like people are forgetting about church, don't get me wrong here, but he wanted to try to draw back the power a bit, right? Some of these church officials, let's face it, are a little corrupt here, right? We gotta move in a direction for the nation. So here's where we see the birthplace of the second Reich. Yeah, we'll get to the third one with the Nazis, but that will be some time, okay? But the second Reich here is the German Empire. All right, so what happens? Where do they crown Kaiser Wilhelm I? Does this room look familiar? This hall? Where is this hall at? Huh? Ben?
The Palace of Versailles.
Yes, good, 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 good. Is this the Hall of Mirrors? Yes, it is. What a way to rub salt in the wound, huh? What a way to really rub France's nose in the dirt. Okay, they're going to crown their king, Germany, their Kaiser, their emperor, here in the Palace of Versailles. Eli, you believe it? Jesus, right, Kenneth. Oh, what's so funny, Brody? Huh? Give me a good G's for me. G's, okay, great, great. All right, so with that, Kaiser Wilhelm I and Germany, this unified empire now, this new Kaiser, right? They crown themselves not in Germany, no, they got to go to the Palace of Versailles in France to do it, and France had to accept it. Do you think the French people are happy about this? No, they just got kicked in the butt, let's face it, right? And now they got to see this in the newspapers. They got to see this forever in these portraits. Even pictures are some out there, sure, of this crowning of the new country, crowning of Kaiser Wilhelm I. That's like, I don't know, someone defeating us in a war, not taking our land or anything, but crowning their new king in the Capitol building, the White House, whatever it might be. Can you imagine that? Jason, can you imagine? It would be terrible. So, in other words, France, they're not going to be happy about this forever, right? They're going to see a rivalry with Germany from here on in. That's going to lead to tensions when we get to World War I. All right, so effects and significance, right? I already talked about all of this, okay? So I mentioned about, again, this balance of power. It's starting to change, right? France, England, right? They are worried, scared to death, even Russia, right? Scared to death of what this German country is looking at, what this world power is becoming. Right now, all of a sudden, the big bully on the playground, it's still Great Britain, but Germany is now stepping up, right? He just came out of nowhere, okay? Again, thanks to that Industrial Revolution, thanks to guys like Otto von Bismarck, new bully on the playground. All right, economic powerhouse, again, industrializes very fast. That second wave of the Industrial Revolution happens in Germany. Yes, the United States too, I get that, but Germany as well, right? They're innovating, they're adapting very quick, right? Great Britain kind of losing it here when it comes to a world power. They still have the strongest navy, that's not going away, right? It'll take till after World War II where we finally see the passing of the torch from Great Britain to the United States as the strongest world in industrial power. All right, again, so tensions, alliances are starting to form. All right, I know I didn't really talk about Italy. I get that. But Italy's doing the same exact thing, just not here as fast or as strong or as warlike as what Germany is doing. All right, so Italy is unifying right around the same time. Germany is unifying, right? And guess what? Are they going to just stop with their own borders? No, we already talked about that with Alsace-Lorraine, right? Russia, Germany takes it from France. Italy and Germany are going to look overseas now. Are they going to go to Africa? Yes, they are. Are they going to go to Asia? Yes, they are. Right? A lot of these territories and lands are already controlled by other European countries. What does that mean? Conflict, fighting again over colonies and territory. So we start to see, again, alliances develop. Germany, Austria, they're going to come together. They need to protect themselves from France and Russia. They need to protect themselves from Great Britain. And this is already starting again where we see World War I. All right, okay, when we get to 1890. All right, 1890, this is where Bismarck's becoming a very old man, right? Again, he's very respected amongst the people of Europe, very respected. That's why no one really wanted to mess with him. He unified Germany together. But there is going to be some conflicts with him and eventually Kaiser Wilhelm II, right? Kaiser Wilhelm II is the son of the first, obviously. Right, the emperor that was crowned at Versailles. Wilhelm II goes in a direction of just constant violence and aggression. He doesn't care about towing the line here and making sure that wars and conflicts don't break out into something larger. Right? Bismarck was great at it. He was a perfect diplomat and statesman of preventing a large-scale war from happening. Again, went to war with Denmark, Austria, and France, and guess what? None of the other European countries involved themselves. When we get to Kaiser Wilhelm II, he looks at Bismarck and says, "Hey, old man, I'm done listening to you. We have this strong military power, right? Very strong. We can take on anybody, right? We can colonize anywhere." Bismarck was trying to calm him down and say, "Hey, if they all come against you, if they all, let's say the Congress of Vienna, here, these European countries, if they all decide to take you on at once, you can't defend yourself." Wilhelm II doesn't believe it. So what happens? Well, he boots Bismarck out of the picture. Bismarck no longer has the role of chancellor. And in just 24 years, we'll see World War One. All right, we'll see World War One. So Wilhelm II, yeah, he kind of goes in a direction where it's not great. All right, I think that's it. Let me see. All right, that's it for German unification. Is there any questions, guys? All right, this next topic here, we're gonna start with imperialism. I do have a game for you. We'll go out with cafeteria. Maybe Friday, maybe Friday. I'd love to do it Friday. Friday, we'll see, but it'll be fun. We'll roll some dice. We'll get in groups of 5, and you guys can simulate the scramble for Africa. All right, guys, that's it.